Hey everyone, it's Two Noobs Talking coming at you once again with episode 24. My buddy John Tracy, of course. I'm Matt Craig. John, how you doing this afternoon, man?
What's up, Matt? How are you?
I'm doing good. Every once in a while, it's good to kind of just take a break from all the news, right? I mean, to kind of just take a step back.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I
COVID.
reached out to a real good friend of ours that we've known for years. He's the commissioner of Fantasy Football League that we're both in. And
What the
what the heck is this Dr. IP?
Indeed, it is. How's it going?
Matt? What?
I don't know what's going on here, John. I mean, Dr. IP, how did you get on this podcast? What
Well, I wanted to just check in on a couple of my very valued YouTube subscribers, see how you guys are doing.
Oh,
Excuse me one second.
well, we're both doing okay. But I mean, I see you're drinking Coke. I mean, that was from your last episode, right?
That's very perceptive of you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. But what are you doing here?
Well, as you know, I've done 2 episodes so far, and even though we've only done 2, we're already over budget. My production team had to buy a 6-pack of these just to get one glass bottle for my show on trademarks. So we're over budget. I'm drinking Coke now every time I'm on camera. See if I could get a sponsorship out of them by doing that. If not, I could line up KFC or I'll just get fat.
I mean, I really appreciate the name dropping. I mean, this is just a homegrown podcast, Dr. IP. I mean, to be perfectly honest. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to let you go before we get into real trouble with all the patent law. We have to consult with a patent lawyer anyway. So I don't, with all due respect, I'm going to have to let you go, but thanks for coming on and for joining us today.
All right, well, we'll see you next time.
Okay. Sean, what was that? I thought we had invited. Oh, I got to check something. Hold on one second. I'm sorry about this, audio listeners and all. I mean, this is just. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let me just type in something here. Hold on. Yeah. All right. Here it is. It's our good buddy Steve Murray. We know Steve, right? I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there.
Oh, there he.
Where were you?
What was that?
I don't know.
Yeah, we were.
I didn't know we were doing serial guests today.
No, dude, it was literally intro. We talked about it in pre-production. You were gonna pop in, that's why I was so confused when I don't know.
But I mean, I mean, Dr. IP is like one of the newest characters on YouTube, and it's like we both subscribe to him, of course. We should definitely, if you're an audio listener, check him out. It's really, really good. If you ever want to learn about patent law,
I don't know why he's Brody in our podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's like that. That's so rude. It's unbelievable. It's terrible. But anyway, but it's great to see you, Steve. I mean, it's great to be with you again. Of course, you've been on our podcast before talking Flyers, but
I don't even know what episode.
That was a while back.
It was 11. It was 11.
Oh, nice. Steve remembers.
Beautiful.
So episode 11. Check out episode 11 if you want to hear some hockey knowledge being dropped.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Dude,
but it's great to be with you.
My predictions weren't coming true so far.
It's okay.
We'll touch on that later, of course, when we talk about the Flyers and everything.
Homo be arrested by now. But
so really, I mean, this is kind of just like we're just kind of just shooting.
Yes,
from the hip here, we don't have a script or anything like that.
Exactly. The whole point is what for all of our listeners is Steve is a huge part of our lives and also this podcast, because we were trying to figure out vacation time because we're all going to take vacation, and me and Matt's thought process was, hey, Steve be a great fill-in, so we just want to introduce him to the crew. So we're just gonna get involved in the conversations we normally have. We're just putting them on air now.
There you
go.
So
good luck to y'all to follow, because it's going to be funny.
But yeah, it's great to be with you, Steve. So, I mean, let's just talk. We were just kind of just shooting a little bit about, in pre-production about what's some of our favorite subjects and everything like that. And this topic of space came up, which I found was so interesting. We're all very fascinated with space and everything. Of course, we've had NASA's thinking about going back,
they are going back, actually.
They are going back. Yeah. Yep.
I think the rover for Mars is going again in a week or so.
The funny thing about the rover is, you see it and you think it's like the size of a remote control car.
Yeah.
No,
But
but
when
it's
you-
like
Yeah,
massive.
it's like the size of a truck. It's amazing how big
That's
that thing is.
remarkable. Yeah. Yeah. That's and the pictures that you get from the red planet in and of it. I mean,
So good. So good.
spectacular. And the fact that, I mean, NASA is not only just thinking about returning to the moon, but then the idea is we're
Yeah,
going to
they're
go
planning-
from
they're
moon to the
planning
to Mars.
Mars, which is their great plan. Which
Yeah.
is we'll re-put those in the show notes so everybody can kind of keep up the NASA stuff.
Mm.
Because what they're doing is unbelievable. They've redone pretty much the whole program, which is great. And it was all bought and paid for, so it's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
So
The-
NASA's in control with space.
I'm particularly interested in what their plan is to get to Mars, though, because
Well,
I'm not sure how they've solved the problem of protecting the astronauts in the spaceship from
Mhm.
the radiation. they're
no,
gonna-
no, absolutely. From what we were reading in one of our previous podcasts, is they redesigned the suits. So what the moon is a test to what they need to do for Mars. Like from what they're talking about, like the return, I think it's 2024 is the return to the moon.
Okay.
That's what they're calling it. That's all test moves to figure out how they're actually going to land on Mars. They've never said they're going to land on Mars.
Mm.
They're saying it's moon to Mars.
Mm.
So the moon stuff is going to be in 2024 when they actually land on the moon, like in the new stuff. You're going to learn a ton more. That's
Mm.
kind of what the NASA executives were explaining
Okay.
when we did that podcast. Like we got to focus on the moon first before we can even. The rover stuff is amazing. The pictures are amazing. I love. Dude, I'll talk aliens. I'll talk space all day long. I have no issues. Like documentaries I've seen, I have no issues with it. But definitely with NASA,
Mm.
the moon is the first thing that we got to look forward to. And I think it was like 2028. They were saying we're going to be like either test landings or real landings. We're going to be on the moon.
That's just
Or, I'm
amazing.
sorry, Mars.
Oh, Mars. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just amazing. Yeah. Good, Steve. What were you going to
Yeah.
say?
As I was saying, the tricky part is the radiation out in space is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
The Earth's magnetic field protects us from it down here.
Mhm.
Moon, you have no protection. Out in between planets, you've got no protection.
Protection.
And the obvious solution as well, build the spaceship out of lead. Well, then the problem is you got to get a lead spaceship off the planet.
Yeah. How do you shoot a lead missile?
Exactly.
Like on the
Exactly.
planet. That's like, how do you shoot
Right.
a lead missile on the planet? Like,
It's tough. Your fuel goes up exponentially, and now you're getting even heavier, and it's a
Mhm.
problem. So the solution then becomes, well, you build the spaceship out in space. Well, we're not there yet.
Yet.
but is
Yeah.
it? Here's my question to you with that.
Mm.
So if moon to Mars, right? Because the moon is lower radiation than Mars is.
Mm,
Mm.
no, I
Well,
mean,
so they say, like landing on it, so you could land on it and do your work to go. So you'd be going from one environment to another, but you wouldn't be going from Earth to Mars. You'd be going Earth to the moon to Mars. Make sense? That's kind of what they're explaining.
I still don't see how that solves the radiation problem. But,
Mm.
They build it on the moon, and then
well, yeah, but you're
Mars.
building it. You're building it on the moon, but the moon's getting bombarded with radiation because the moon doesn't have a magnetic field to protect you.
Mm.
Understood, but I think that's the Artemis plan, is to get to the moon, to build to the moon, to go to Mars, because I don't think they can go from Earth to Mars, because I don't think you can just jump planets. I don't think that's a thing. I think that's
I'd love to know like the number of miles. How many millions of miles is it from Earth to Mars?
I really wish I knew.
Yeah.
I don't know the
Hold on.
mileage. I think the trip is supposed to take something like 10 months
Wow.
at our current capabilities.
Ability. Mhm.
Okay, so the minimum distance of Earth to Mars is about 33.9 million miles.
Gosh.
Okay, so
For
that's
everybody that doesn't believe in miles, it's 54.6 million kilometers.
Thank you.
We're all encompassing at this. We make sure that every
That's-
message
what is
That's
that
just
in astronomical
for our
units?
Brazilian audience down there. So there, just so you know.
But I think, to be
Much
honest
love.
with you, from the research we did, and we'll throw all of that into the show notes of this, so everybody can, if you like to read, should read it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The research we did was, it was like a 2-week thing that we were putting that together.
Well, John, didn't you say, like, I think and part of that research was finding there was like they found like some sort of evidence of water existing on Mars or not on Mars, on the moon at some point.
On the moon, yeah, they had that like weird, I don't even remember what it's called, but yeah, they found it. They found water on the moon, and then they started to realize that there was a better, like, you could land there and actually station there for a longer period of time than they actually thought originally.
Hmm.
Because
That
there's-
was the first thing. And then the Artemis thing was that they were going to prepare to go to Mars. Like, everything that they did on Mars was going to be a preparation to land, or on the moon was in preparation to land
To
on
go.
Mars.
Yeah.
That was what the kind of and we'll put it all in the show notes, because that's kind of what NASA was explaining. Like,
Mm.
it's not just one project.
Mm.
Like, it's the moon is the first project. And
Yeah.
then the second project is going to Mars.
Going to Mars. Yeah, exactly. Guys, I had the real fortunate opportunity when I was doing Lean Six Sigma certified Penn State, and I had the real fortunate opportunity of running into a guy that actually, I guess it was conceptualizing the International Space Station. When I first heard, it was like, oh my gosh! But
Insane.
thinking about that, just think about like the International Space Station by itself, just the fact that this thing is orbiting around the entire Earth, and the fact that
I
was
saw
built. There you go. Right. I mean, just
it was. I got a notice that said it was passing over.
oh, okay.
Took the kids over across the street to the school parking lot. We looked and we saw it actually pass over.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sucker was moving.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think they say it like rotates around the Earth 18 times during a particular day. I believe it's moving that quickly. I think I might have. We'll have to look that up.
I think you're pretty close to that. Like that. Yeah, I think you're pretty close to that.
But just to have, I mean, just to have the knowledge to build that. I mean, and that was all done by spacewalk. That's not something where you just build it here on Earth and you just launch it up and it's like
and that's the thing that and just to get a little political for a minute for your guys' benefit to talk about what you guys think about. That's the funny thing. Like, we have an International Space Station, and those dudes can get along. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about purpose. I did it on purpose, but you know what I mean? Like, it's all about purpose. It's all about doing something. Like,
from a humanity standpoint.
Everybody goes to work and doesn't like that one dude. I'm probably that dude at work. But you work with them because they might know something that you don't know, or blah, blah, blah. Like, everybody has that in life. But funny that we brought that up, and kind of, the humanity and the politic parts of it.
Yeah, sure.
Joe Biden saying that, he's been in the Senate for 125 years and is going to be bipartisan, and never mind. So
I understand where you're going with that, but in fairness, when you're on the International Space Station, I'm not sure you really have much choice but to get along.
You're absolutely right. So
bingo.
Let's put Congress in a box.
In space.
I win.
I'm all for that.
Just a little political comedy. That's all we were trying to do.
They may be in a box now in Washington. Who knows? I mean,
we were for a while.
You never know. But yeah, it's just like, it's amazing to see. I mean, I can't even like conceptually think about building a space station of that size, much less the Mars rover. Steve, to your point, I mean, it's the size of a truck, and we landed that truck on a planet. I mean, that
not without anxious moments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, but it's like just having that, just the conceptual ability of building that type of stuff and to put it on specifics. That just blows my mind every single time when you hear of news like that, or when you hear like of a Katherine Johnson who, back in the 1950s with no computers was handwriting formulas of, oh, okay, here's how you get to the moon and back. I mean, that's just the level of comprehension and mathematical comprehension just blows my mind. And I'm pretty good at mathematics, knock on wood. But I mean, the giftedness that people have, I just am admiring of that more than anything else. Yeah.
I'm good at math too, unless you put a dollar sign in front of it and then something goes.
Then it's over.
In my head. But I mean, if you think that's mind blowing, I mean, even the stuff we kind of take for granted.
Yeah.
Like just take GPS, for example. Okay. GPS relies on satellites that are hovering above the Earth in orbit. And I'm going to get a little physics related here for you, but gravity causes time to pass more slowly. So the more gravity there is, the slower your clock is ticking. And so when the GPS, the little thing in your phone, or back in the old days when you had the Garmin or the Nuvi, in your car, when that's calculating where you are on the road by communicating with these satellites, those satellites have to account for the fact that the gravity they're experiencing is causing their clocks to tick like 2 nanoseconds or something faster than down here. And it can actually make a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Which, so even something as simple as just GPS navigation requires incredibly complex physics and mathematics to it.
That's just amazing.
So to land a truck on Mars, 30 plus million miles away, that's outstanding.
That you shot out of a rocket.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, NASA's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like literally the coolest thing ever. It's the things that I mean, I deal in liquid measurement, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Like the concept that you can fluctuate with heat and cold, and like all these things can change in a very small environment. Now imagine shooting a cold truck because it was 34 degrees when they shot it out of a rocket in the space, which is no degrees with radiation, and it's on a trajectory, and someone's on a video game trying to play it. And like literally you have to land it on the planet, but you don't just have to land it on the planet, because this is the thing people need to think about. You need to land it on the flat surface.
Yeah.
Not the mountain that if you weren't paying attention, it would probably just, like most video games, if you jump off the big thing in Grand Theft Auto, you're not going to land on the street. You might hit the building.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, but they're doing it, real life.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
It would be just my luck that, I'd land it and the front end would land on like a rock or something. And you'd be unable to get it
moving.
That's your luck. Dude, I might miss the planet. I might have just got ADD all over that and be like, launched it great, guys. I'm going to lunch.
Oh, I guess that rover's going to Jupiter now.
Yeah, exactly. Find out I landed through Pluto.
Yeah, exactly.
Which might not be a planet at this point.
Exactly.
I don't know. Ask somebody.
Big old ice ball flown around out there.
Today it's not.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Tomorrow it might be though. So
yeah.
It was a dwarf planet for half of my 35th birthday.
Unbelievable.
And that's actual, you can calculate that. If you know my birth date and you know Pluto, you can actually calculate that, I promise.
There you go. There you go. Nice.
Just being me.
So let's move on. Steve, obviously you've got two great posters behind you. Godzilla, right? I mean, big Godzilla fan. And of course, we've got the big movie coming out.
Huge.
Kong versus Godzilla, the big knockdown, drag out fight here.
I've been waiting 2 years for this.
2 years for this, right? So what's the anticipation like? What's probably your best Godzilla movie you've ever seen? And I'll even throw in the worst one you've ever seen of the entire franchise.
So tell us a little about, because I don't know. I know what Godzilla is. I'm not, hopefully, I will see it. I'm more of a DVD guy, so when it comes out on DVD, I'll sit on my own
If
couch. I
you've
don't
got
like.
HBO Max, it'll be on HBO Max.
Cool, that's
I'm
good.
choosing to go to the theater to see it.
No,
There you go.
and you absolutely should. But it kind of explain for people that don't know the whole Godzilla thing, because your fashion is I can't say it.
Infatuated.
Infatuated.
Your knowledge of it is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, just listen to you last night in pre-production. Like, I'm like, I want to see that movie. I don't know anything. So please explain.
So, all right. So Godzilla, the first Godzilla movie was in 1954 in Japan,
Mm.
and it was conceived as an allegory for nuclear weapons. Godzilla is basically like a living nuclear weapon, and in the first movie, this one,
Mm.
he destroys Tokyo slowly and horribly.
Mm.
And it was also a warning because around that time, it was also partially inspired by there was a nuclear test in the Pacific. I forget if it was the one near Bikini Atoll or not.
Mm.
But it had, like, the fallout had accidentally landed on a Japanese fishing vessel and caused some problems. So that was the origin of the beast.
Mm.
And then it's actually, so this poster is the one from the original Japanese version. 2 years later, it was brought into the United States. This is the US version of the same movie.
Wow.
Some of it was dubbed into English. Some scenes with the actor Raymond Burr, famous as Perry Mason,
Mm.
were, and his name in the movie was Steve Martin, which turned out, 40 years
So
later,
close.
kind of weird.
That's hilarious.
So close. Yeah.
So they dubbed it into English. They inserted scenes of Raymond Burr into the movie, sort of as like exposition. They toned down some of the more serious aspects of it, just as a political thing, and it caught on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know Godzilla is probably the longest running movie franchise, I think, in history.
Wow.
There's, I believe it's over 30 movies at this point.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
it's very interesting. It's interesting just to see, because it spans from the 50s, and there's movies in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
It goes all that distance. And you really, it's an interesting study in, like, society and culture, because you don't often have, and James Bond is probably the only one I could think of that's comparable, have the same character in movies that span decades. So you see kind of a snapshot of that period of time.
Oh yeah.
And you see how that character is reflected.
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla is kind of the same way. So, like, the movies in the 50s are very different than the ones in the 60s and the ones in the 70s and so on. And as the Godzilla character developed, like in this movie, the original movie was in Japan, was very serious and very grim, and the World War II was still very much kind of in their mind still back then. But then as the character grew and the movies developed, they sort of slanted it more towards children. So a lot of the movies in, like, the late 60s and the early 70s were a little campier.
Can I ask you a quick question with you saying that, with it moving a little bit more towards children? That was the video game Rampage in the 80s.
In the 80s.
Right? 80s, early 90s, right? Because they were trying to modernize it. They were trying to, because Godzilla is the character in that, but there was a bunch of other characters.
It's not Godzilla.
Well, no, but it's
trademark issue. Trademark issue.
Of course, yeah, of course. Well, this is no, just messing. That was the last episode. But I'm saying, like, they tried to play off of it,
right?
Because it was such a success in Japan and also in America. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. The Japan version and the American version.
Yeah. I can't say because it's Rampage came out a little later. The Godzilla movies were going more kiddie, sort of late 60s.
Mhm.
And I can't really say, maybe that's just the way the
Well,
market
when you
was
start to
working.
get kitschy, you run full kitschy. Like that's
Right.
just
And they did.
just
And
what worked.
another thing that was big in Japan at that time was professional wrestling.
Yes.
So when you watch the monsters fight in a lot of those movies in like the late 60s and early 70s, they use a lot of wrestling kind of maneuvers.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. And that's hilarious.
So then
with the
in
pro wrestling thing.
Yeah.
So then in 75, they stopped making them for a little while.
Mhm.
Godzilla came back, and another thing that what happened was in this one, it's just him alone. He's destroying Tokyo.
Mm.
As the series progressed, he became more of a hero instead of a villain.
Mm.
And so he would fight other monsters who were villains and team ups and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
84, and that poster's over there.
Mm.
They brought him back as a villain by himself. And that started a new wave of movies. Again, he was fighting enemies. 95, they killed him.
Mm.
And that was when Matt asked about the worst Godzilla movie.
Ah.
I don't actually even consider it a Godzilla movie. 1998's Godzilla.
Yeah.
Okay, just real quick. This is your opportunity for YouTube and the world. Get on it as best you can. This is your opportunity. What's in your brain. Go for it. Don't hold back. Don't hold back.
I don't want to be harsh. It was not a good movie.
Be hard. Don't hold back.
The reason it's so bad is because it was called Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And instead of a rampaging monster who's radioactive and breathing fire everywhere, he's a giant iguana ducking behind buildings, and he gets taken out at the end by a single missile from a helicopter. And if you know anything about the real Japanese Godzilla, he's indestructible. He's a walking nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
So, preach it, my brother.
The best thing I can say is after that movie, Japan again introduced what they called the Millennium Series Godzilla movies.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2004, they had one called Final Wars, where it was basically like Godzilla just fights every monster the company ever had. And he has a fight with the American Godzilla, who is now referred to just as Zilla. And he basically, the real Godzilla beats Zilla in about 30 seconds.
Justifiably so. Exactly.
Like Vince McMahon wrote all of that. God.
He might have.
He probably did.
That is awful. That was like last year's WrestleMania.
So then what I was excited about was the 2014 America tried again, and they had the movie Godzilla. It had Bryan Cranston in it. Aaron Taylor Johnson or something.
We don't remember their names. They're
yeah. The humans in these stories are never important anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's about Godzilla.
Right. Yeah. So they brought that out. That was a good movie. The complaint people had was that Godzilla had about 10 minutes of screen time in the whole 2-hour film, but it was very well done. It really brought the creature
suspense. Back. I don't want to see Michael Myers every 2 seconds.
Right.
I just need to know he's chasing me all the time. Got it.
Yeah. And then
a good thing.
And then 2019 came with Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I loved. It was a fun movie. For nothing else, the visuals were fantastic. What they did with the colors and the monsters. There's a scene there. One of the characters, his name is Rodan. He's a giant pteranodon. I think one of the best scenes in the whole movie is he takes out an entire squadron of jet fighters.
Nice.
Doing all in midair, just doing all these really cool maneuvers.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
It was fantastic. And so Godzilla versus Kong is now the sequel. And Kong had his own back in 2017.
Yeah, Skull Island, I think, right?
Kong Skull Island
Yeah,
with Samuel L. Jackson, who was awesome in that movie.
yeah,
He's the greatest thing that ever lived.
yeah.
He really is. He's
And I believe he actually in that movie said, "Hold on to your butts."
good.
There you go.
That's a line that you want to.
Yeah,
Oh, he's got to say that like every time.
He's so
fantastic.
funny.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
So the
greatest Godzilla
anticipation for
movie.
this one,
Greatest Godzilla movie. You know, the purists would want me to say the original one is the greatest.
Mm,
My favorite is probably the one from 1984 because he looked like totally badass.
mm,
And his roar was deeper and
mm,
like mean, and he was just an asshole.
yeah.
You need to say less. Like that's exactly
That's awesome.
He was awesome. And then the 95 movie Godzilla versus Destroyer is a classic.
Mm,
It's a great battle. And then the 2019 film I loved.
mm,
Worst one for a Godzilla movie, not Zilla.
mhm, mhm.
There's a movie called Son of Godzilla. I think it was the Son of Godzilla. Yeah.
I remember that. That's crazy.
Mhm.
I've never seen it, but I remember.
They introduce a son who is like, I don't know if you've ever seen the vampire Nosferatu.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's like a
yes.
pale white. He's got
Like
these two like fangs in the front of his mouth.
Yeah.
It's a cross. The son is a cross between Nosferatu and Kermit the Frog.
Oh no.
Nice.
And the Godzilla suit, they used suits in all these movies.
Mm.
The suit in that particular movie was so god awful. His eyes were like, he was looking like a Muppet. His eyes were like on the top of his head. And the reason they had to do it was because it had something to do with the size of the suits, and like they needed a big guy to play him because they had a dwarf playing the son.
Oh.
So they needed a bigger suit, and they just made it ugly. And the whole thing is just god awful.
Yeah. Oh jeez. Oh my gosh. So the level of anticipation for you, Steve, for this upcoming movie. I mean, what are your like initial thoughts? What do you hope for? And what are you dreading in regards to this new movie that's coming out?
Well, I don't want Kong to win because he shouldn't win because he's just a freaking gorilla.
Mm.
That's all he is.
Mm.
Oh, he's smart. Yeah. Well, Godzilla's a freaking radioactive.
He's a bomb. Yeah.
Monster. Okay.
Yeah.
350 foot. That's another thing, by the way. The US movies, the new movies, the believability factor that there's a 350 foot high monster. You never doubt that as you're watching these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like did you see I Am Legend?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those zombies really detracted from the movie because they just looked so crappy.
Yeah.
So you watch it and you're like, I can't believe this is actually happening. But these movies, the special effects are terrific. You never want to kind of question that there's this thing standing there.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going with this? So I'm dreading Kong's gonna win, even though I don't think he should.
Mm-hmm.
We know Mecha Godzilla, one of Godzilla's famous foes, is a robot Godzilla, as the name would suggest, is going to be in the movie. So the thought process is they're probably going to go Batman versus Superman and have Kong and Godzilla.
Please don't. Please don't. Oh my god. If I could go back in time and tell Ben Affleck to be a lawyer, I would. Because that is the worst thing ever. That's the worst thing that happened to Batman.
No. You're forgetting George Clooney and the nipple suit.
I know.
Oh my god! Don't even bring that up.
I was going to Val Kilmer, George Clooney, that like nipples on Batman. I was going there. Yeah. Oh jeez. Like really, you showed up looking like a robot.
You know, and I think the whole thing with that Batman v Superman movie was like they were trying to keep it gritty and dark.
And here's the funny thing. It's a great movie if you eliminate the final scene. It's actually good. They're both conflicted, blah 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 blah, and then he shows up looking like a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you lost me right then and there.
There.
And the fact you're Ben Affleck and you have no ability to put a catch line out there. Like he's Ben Affleck's like the worst actor, not as an actor. Like the dude can play a part, but what he can't be is witty.
See, I disagree with you. Just I thought Ben Affleck was fine. I didn't see him
That
really
hurt
as
my
the issue with that movie.
Hmm.
My acting wise, my biggest problem. I just watched it again last week. It was on TNT,
Awesome.
one of those
Okay.
channels, and
Awesome.
it wasn't as bad as I remembered it.
Hmm.
You're right. The first
Maybe,
part
maybe
of the
that,
movie,
and I'll give you that too, because maybe it isn't as bad as I watched it.
the first parts of the movie, I do agree. The problem I had was the choice in how, what's his name, Jesse Eisenberg,
Yes.
chose to portray Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
I could see.
I would
could
agree with that. I would
totally
agree
see
with
how
that.
That would be even more important.
Because he came across as this like kid
Yeah.
to me. It was like he was
The
like
thing
this
with the
10-year-old
Jolly Rancher
sniveling
just
little
bothered the
brat.
hell
I
out of
was
me.
like, where are
No,
you
no,
going with this? This guy's supposed to be. Yeah.
I could see how that would hide Ben Affleck's terrible acting. Totally.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Like that movie had some flaws. Let's get back to Godzilla. Sorry. I hate that movie so much that I had to go for it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'll sit back and we'll talk about Godzilla.
Well, one more thing. Have you? I don't suppose either of you has seen the Snyder Cut yet.
No.
I've not. No.
I am looking forward to that too. But
Yeah.
that's in theaters.
4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours long. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
will,
like,
I will see it.
Yeah.
It's a must. It's a must.
Yeah.
It looks good. Looks good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the thought process is Godzilla and Kong will team up to defeat Mechagodzilla.
Mm.
But the director and people involved are saying that there will be a winner as between Kong and Godzilla.
Oh, boy.
Interesting.
Definitive. Oh boy.
Definitively.
Interesting.
Huh.
So, we'll see.
So does Godzilla beat Kong and then beat Mega Kong and then he's just the best?
I don't know. I mean, if you had seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, the previous movie,
Mhm.
Which I
He
hadn't.
fight-
That's why I'm relying on you for this.
he fights. Let me see. I got.
Let's just say
I'll-
we
I'll
go
bring
off
down-
script all the time.
Look at this.
So this is King Ghidorah,
Okay.
the three-headed dragon.
Apparently he got beat though. From
Oh,
what
he
you're
got
saying.
beat. He
Yeah.
got beat.
See?
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Most people that go
but-
to the corner with
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
Steve,
So-
by the way, in hockey, you get beat.
But he was
for
a
that.
pretty nasty villain. Godzilla
Mm-hmm.
beats him. If you've seen that movie, you're like, there's no way Kong beats Godzilla in the next.
Yeah, exactly.
Heard.
So
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's gonna die. So that what I'd like to have happen is they call it the Monsterverse.
You know
I
it
would-
would be
I would-
great.
I
You
would
know what
like
would
for
be-
that to continue.
You know
Uh,
what would be great though, Steve?
What's that?
If you have Godzilla beat Kong and Godzilla does the step over a la Allen Iverson did with Tyronn Lue back in the day. That would be pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That would be worth the price of admission right there.
That would be pretty cool, actually. That'd be great.
That was the greatest moment in Philly sports. Like it literally was. Like you can't get.
Hey, well, why don't we transition there? Let's talk some Philly sports, guys, since we've got like this all going on here, right? I mean,
Yeah, no, absolutely. We should definitely talk. I mean, there's not much to talk about.
Well,
thanks for killing the
depends on-
gimmick there, John. God.
Well, I have to kill your gimmick because there's not a lot going on.
No, wait a minute. The Sixers are in first place.
Yeah, but we already knew that was going to happen. What the problem is the Flyers. They
Yeah.
should be in first place.
Yes.
They
So,
should be.
They
it just-
did-
They're not. Although they beat the Rangers today, which
They
is
did
great.
beat the Rangers today.
Yeah.
Sam Moran had his first
Absolutely.
goal.
Good win too.
Yeah, good win too.
let's break them down a little bit. I know nothing because I haven't literally seen one game, so I'm gonna just be the voice of, hey, let's talk, Flyers for a minute. Break it down, Matt. You start. Like, where are they and where the hell are they going?
Yeah, that's a real good question, John, because that's really at the beginning part of the season, it looked like, okay, this team was going to be definitely making top four. They're going to be in the playoffs, no problem. And the last, I would say 3-4 weeks, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, they have really slidden down. They can't cover. They're running around with like chickens with their head cuts off. They just have no idea where to go in the defensive zone. Today's effort, much better, held the Rangers finally to 1 goal. And I mean, it was like it was a scoring fest the last couple of times they played the Rangers, and I think they're the better team. The Flyers are the better team than the Rangers by far.
Agree.
But Sam Moran getting the goal, his first NHL hockey goal, or NHL goal, I should say, in his career, and this is a guy that had multiple torn ACLs, 2 of them, and like was this close, like scant close of like losing his career. So for him to come back and get the win and to see the celebration, which I thought was just tremendous for like all the guys that were on the ice, they were absolutely loving this moment that he gets the game winner. Could be a galvanizing effect. We'll see. But yeah, they're struggling right now. They're like 3 points out of a playoff spot now with Boston. No one expected, for the Flyers to be in this position. And this is going to be tough because it's like, I'm looking ahead in the schedule. 2 weeks from now, they've got Boston and they've got like, I think it's 2 or 3 games in that week. That's going to be the pivotal week. If they don't get out of there with at least 4 out of 6 points, the season's done, Steve. I don't know what your thoughts are. It doesn't look good if they get like swept in that week with Boston on the schedule. It's not going to be good.
As I pointed out last night during pre-production, Boston also apparently gets to play punching bag Buffalo Sabres 7 more times before the end of the season.
Yeah,
which could be 14 points for them.
exactly.
I
that week is going to be crucial, I think, for the Flyers to at least get at least 4 points minimum.
I actually was concerned the first part of the season. Even though they had a good record, they were getting badly outshot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing a lot of what we had seen in the bubble. And I thought maybe teams had figured something out.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I was seeing was a lot of them getting hemmed into their own zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could not get out. You'd be in there for like a minute and a half at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Just real quick, so people understand what you mean by the bubble and you mean being outshot, is they're not spending a ton of time in the offensive zone. So you can't score goals. What you're doing is you're chasing, you're running.
Yeah.
You're trying to play boards. You're a step behind everything.
All 3 of us have done
every pass, every shot, every thought process. You are literally that much behind.
Yeah.
That's what Steve means by outshot. You're that much behind.
Yeah.
You're running and you're tired and you're running lines. When you're running lines, you're running them probably at what, like 55 seconds?
That's too much.
And that's what I'm saying. Like because you're too late on everything. So nobody is actually breathing. And we can all tell you when you sit on a bench, you need a couple drinks of some water or some Gatorade. You need a good,
maybe a beer. I mean, I don't know.
You know what I mean? You need a good like in out a couple times before you're ready to go out there again. So if you're running a team that quickly, they're never going to catch up.
And you can't change if you're in your defensive zone.
Yeah.
So,
is that you can only do one at a time.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, Steve perfected in roller hockey. I'm just going to let you know.
Yeah.
Steve taught me. He invented it. I don't know who invented it, but he learned it before I did. How to leak. You flip when we were playing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were playing 3, that you leak to the offensive position and then you change out. That was you. I don't even think you're just so natural. You're such a natural athlete. I don't think you know what you taught people.
Thanks. But they were winning those games, but I was seeing, and it was, the
red flags were
talking about maybe, John, when Jim Jackson starts to get that urgency in his
like
Yes.
oh my God, something bad is about to happen. He gets
Mhm.
real
He,
time
he,
zone.
he knows hockey and he sees it 6 steps before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no,
That,
I
could
I
hear
get what you're
that
saying.
even if it's not happening, I could hear that in my head a lot of times.
Mhm.
Some of these
It's
shifts. Fortunately, they seem to have gotten away from that. They're not having that problem now. The problem now is they're getting beat like on rushes, and they're
Yeah.
letting odd mans happen, and they're not covering people in front of the net.
Yeah.
they're tough. They're tough to. They're and this is I'm sorry. Can you give me their coach's name again? Because I know him from
Yeah.
Montreal.
Elaine Vigneault. Elaine
Yeah,
Vigneault.
I was about to say that, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to
Yep.
seem like I was an idiot. Those Montreal teams that he had, and you can fact check me on this. Not really good at defense. They were offensively pretty decent from what I remember. Like offensively pretty decent. Their power play was pretty good. Their penalty kill wasn't so great.
Mm.
Their defense kind of that was the Pecan Subban thing.
No.
He wasn't around there.
Was that prior to that? Maybe.
Vigneault was actually the coach in like the late 90s.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Wasn't that right around that time though? Didn't they trade him as a rookie?
Subban was around. John Subban was around, like I would say, in the late aughts, early teens.
Yeah.
I think he's been in the league for at least 10, 12 years.
No,
Because
he's
he was
been
battling with Mike
forever.
Richards a lot.
Now,
Yeah, no, absolutely. But wasn't that coach the Montreal coach when they traded him?
No,
no.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it was Michael Terry.
He was, though, like prior to, I think, the Flyers, he was with the Rangers, did go to the Stanley Cup final against the Kings.
No, he's a good coach.
He's a great coach in that regard, but
And Vancouver. He took Vancouver.
and Vancouver too. So he's been there before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your point's
it might have just
valid
gotten years
because I
stronger.
think there is concerns with his defensive coaching ability. But I mean, that's why you have Mike Yeo, and Mike Yeo's pretty good on defense. It's just, I think, to Steve's point, they're running around, and all three of us know this. When you run around your defensive zone and you can't get the puck off that opponent's stick, you're done. And you're just running around trying to cover, forget it. It's like you have to retreat back into your shell.
I actually put a lot of that getting pinned in your own zone. I think and it's hard to tell because the camera angle on TV, you don't get the whole zone. You kind of get like down low.
Yep.
You don't see what's happening up at the blue line.
Yep.
I think a lot of it was actually more the forwards.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah.
The forwards looked like they were zigging when the defense was zagging. The defender would pass the puck around the wall and the forward couldn't get there in time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a real question, just not to be too geeky about hockey, but when the center's not popping to the left and the right wing's not covering the other defenseman, you're always going to get that download pop because now your center's not covering because your left wing's lost.
Well,
you're doing it like when you're playing, like what you're saying, like it's absolutely 100 when you're going this way and then I'm going this way, right?
Right.
But now your left wing's down low and then they just center pass to this dude. Now you got two defensemen. Maybe one's over here trying to cover this, and maybe one dude's. It's when you're chasing. I know. I'm still not used to the camera. Thank you.
This way, that way. What's up? Or what's up?
To me, a lot of it was, and I know there's a school of thought that says get all five guys, pack them in right in front of your goalie to deal it off.
Which I disagree with 100, but
I don't like it either.
Yeah.
But what that does is that leaves the points wide open.
Wide open.
That is then you pass it back to the point and you go D to D across. Now you've drawn those forwards out away.
Yep.
And if they're not reacting timely, guys are wide open. You can't get to loose pucks. And I think that's what was happening.
I don't know what your thought process on this would be, but I know like in the past, whenever I played ice hockey, the best defense that I've always kind of remembered or used has always been like the Herb Brooks system, which basically means you always have one defensive point guy parked out right in front of the slot, and then you have your other defenseman going where the puck is going. So you always have that one guy planted in front of the slot. You got the other guy is covering the other defense with your forwards covering everything else. And then as the puck, if the puck goes around to the other side of the rink, that guy that's in the slot would go after the puck, leaving the other guy coming back and he covers the slot. So it's like you've got the slot covered each time where the puck goes back and forth. I don't know what your thoughts on that, but
I think we all kind of play the same thing. I know me and Steve when we were playing 4-on-4, one of the things that I was always instructed or instructed myself. Who knows? There were some great dudes on there. Who knows? But I'd always play both points because I had good defensemen down low, and I had another guy that understood how to play the middle, so he wasn't putting stress on, let's say, Steve or a defenseman that's down there, because I was quick enough to go between them. So all I was looking for was the errant pass.
Was just a pass across the point.
That's all I was. I was just being in charge of getting in the way.
Yeah.
Like I had no defensive position. I was just, well, I'm quicker than you, so I might be able to get to your pass. You know what I mean? Or I can hem you in.
Yeah.
And then you got to put it down low, and then you got to deal with the big kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of, and I think that's probably a good system, but I don't know what the Flyers doing because it seems like they get overrun in all situations. They do good at times.
Yeah.
I think the problem is
get overrun at times.
It's not the system, I don't think, at this point. I think the problem now is the personnel.
Is the talent?
Is the personnel.
You've got Provorov is a number one.
He's not a defenseman.
Yes, he is. He's a very good.
No, I know he's a defense, but he's not an all elite defenseman. He's a great player that lacks defensive ability. If I could put your brain in his head, he'd be the greatest thing I ever saw. You get what I mean? Like he just lacks not pure defensive ability because he's a defenseman. He understands what he has to do. I think just sometimes he cheats and it doesn't work out well for him.
Well, he might cheat. I believe he's the number one, but the problem is to have a top pairing, you need a guy who's top pairing capable.
You need the big, you need Pronger.
They've tried, yes, they've tried Braun. Niskanen played that. I mean, they did very well defensively last year.
Yeah.
That was because
I completely agree. Completely agree.
Yep.
This year they've tried Braun. Braun to me is a third pairing defenseman.
Yeah, not a top line defenseman.
No, I agree.
Gostisbehere is not a defenseman.
No, he's a right wing that gets confused and plays backwards. He's such a good offenseman, though.
Yeah.
No, his offensive ability is
like who lied to him in his life? That's what I want to know.
I don't think he's
who lied to him. That dude could be a right winger.
He might be.
I don't think he's at this point in his career yet, but I seem to recall there was a team years ago who had a defenseman who basically sat on the bench unless there was a power play. Because he was a great power play defenseman.
Yeah.
They didn't want him out there 5-on-5 and they didn't want him killing penalties.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Why not Gossip Spear do that? Because he's perfect. Like his shot's amazing.
Oh, his shot's incredible.
The dude can dress anybody down.
Yeah.
The dude can play between the circles. The dude understands most things. You know what I don't want to see? An out pass, and he's the only guy back. Done so every time.
Yeah.
That game against Boston where it was like the first 10 seconds, Pasternak just turned him inside out, scored a goal, was like...
Here we go again. Yeah.
And all he did was shimmy, shake, drop his shoulder, and went left. And Gossip Spear was sitting on his... He was sitting in the playground.
5 foot and off. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So he can't be on your top pair.
No.
Myers and Sanheim aren't there yet.
No.
There's talent. There's potential there.
Yes.
I mean, but I think they're the same age as Provorov, and you would say, well, Provorov's there. Why can't they be?
Provorov's elite. It's just
exactly.
Figuring out. Provorov has to figure out who he is.
Provorov was drafted high in the first round.
Yeah.
And everyone when he was drafted, everyone was like, he's a number one. Just that's what he
Pencilman, he's there. Yeah.
Myers was never drafted. So, you know, he's behind, and he wasn't playing NHL his first few seasons, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
same with Sanheim. Provorov jumped right to the NHL. Sanheim had to get seasoning in
Yes,
juniors
yes,
still.
absolutely.
Yep.
Here's a funny story about Sanheim. That was the year the Flyers had the draft at the Wells Fargo Center.
Mhm.
So I was
That's really funny.
Were you there?
I was there.
Yeah.
It was a blast. It was a great time. We booed the shit out of the Penguins.
Nice. I remember seeing that clip.
Jim,
too,
Jim
of the
Rutherford.
boos.
They had roll call, and it was like, oh, I'm so and so from such and such team.
Yeah.
They got to the Penguins, and we were booing so loud. Jim Rutherford, this is Jim Rutherford for the Penguins. and then
That's too funny.
he
Awesome.
sent Rick Tocchet up to make their selection because he thought we'd go easy on him. And we
Oh, jeez.
Wow. Wow.
So I was there. Sanheim, the Flyers pick comes up. They and with this pick, the Flyers select Travis Sanheim. We're all like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after everything died down, we all look at each other like, who the hell was that?
That's great.
No.
That's awesome.
So Myers and Sanheim are just not at the point where they can be a top pairing.
Yeah.
So you don't
No, agreed.
have anybody
Yeah.
to pair.
So then the question is, okay, so then I would agree, Steve, like the question then would be, what do you do? You're 3 points out, right, of a final playoff spot. I don't think you could catch Pittsburgh. I don't think you could catch Washington and the Islanders. That probably is not going to happen at this point in the season. So the question is, what do you do in terms of, because I think the need is on defense. And the Flyers have thought, well, okay, we're going to buy at the deadline, trade deadline, whenever that may be. I think that's coming up shortly.
That's the plan so far.
The question then is, do you trade? And if you do, who do you pull the trigger with? And that's going to be tough because you've got Voracek is loaded with a massive contract. You know, and Giroux, you can't trade your captain. I don't think that can be, that's off the table. So the question is, who's the capital that you're willing to move to get a veteran defenseman in without sacrificing any of the young talent that you've got?
There's a couple problems. One is, are you going to pull the trigger on something that's going to cost you prospects? Because I think that's the capital they'd have to use if they're trying to win this year.
Yep.
But are you going to go on? Because if that's what you're going to do and you're going to land a defenseman, if there's a problem, the problem here is the expansion draft.
Yeah,
okay?
That too.
If you land a defenseman who is on an expiring contract, you're giving up prospects for this year. Okay. And that may or may not happen. And probably not. It's not likely looking at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. If you do it for somebody who's got years left on the contract, then the problem becomes, well, now who am I protecting in the expansion draft? Because you get 3 defensive slots. You're protecting Provorov, absolutely. Because you've invested trade capital, you'd have to protect the guy you just traded for.
Yeah.
But then you have Myers and Sanheim, 2 guys who you don't really want to lose.
Yeah.
Unless they're the one going back in the trade, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah. And that's where you kind of have to really straddle that line. And it's like, do you pull it? That's the difficult part to all of this, is because of the slide that they've had. It's like, what do you do? It's like, it's out there. Boston, fortunately for us, has lost ground. They're not having a good year. It's really odd to see them down in the standings. And the fact that we're now 3 points out of them is like, I never would have expected that, that kind of deal. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out in the end. If you've got, if it comes down to nick and tuck, and that's where I think where I was mentioning before, if you've got that week, 2 weeks from now, those three games or something like that in a row, Boston, that's going to define your season, really. And if you get 4 points, you've got a shot. But realistically, if you only come out of there with a win out of 3 games, it's not looking good at that point.
Shot though worth the trade. That's, I
That's
especially
a great point.
you have
Yeah.
another problem. You have another problem.
Hmm.
Carter Hart, he's 22. I'm not worried that long term he's going to be.
Yeah,
not
he'll
gonna-
be fine. Yep.
But this season, he's got a confidence problem right now.
No doubt. No doubt.
Is he going to be able to fix that by the postseason, or is this something that we're just going to have to let the season play out, let him fix himself over the summer,
Mm-hmm.
and deal with it next year?
And deal with it next year.
It's not gonna be better.
Where you can address a potential idea where, okay, here's where we were missing. We're missing that veteran defenseman. We really need that in this team. We need to address that kind of thing. So it's a fine line. I totally agree with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's do something a little fun though. Let's transition away from the Flyers talk and let's look at some mascots, because that the greatest of all time, and I would have never thought this a couple years ago when this guy first leapt onto the scene, was Gritty. And he's the greatest. I mean, he's the greatest mascot probably of all time. It's certainly in the National Hockey League, maybe making a run on the Philly Fanatic, although I think the Fanatics are still the greatest ever.
I think the Philly Fanatic is the creepiest thing I've ever seen.
My kids are split on that.
Yeah.
What's their thought process?
I think one would go Gritty and the other would go the Fanatic. But I think to them, they can't really make up their mind. I'm sort of in the same boat. I love Gritty.
It
But
makes
I grew up with the Fanatic. The Fanatic's great.
Yep.
my kids like the Fanatic. I don't. He's creepy.
That's just unbelievable. I can't believe I'm hearing this out of you, John. That's
He's just creepy. I don't.
Yeah.
He's a little bit too touchy for me. So let's get into this, because we had fun last night.
Oh yeah.
And then we wanted to bring this to everybody because this is hilarious. Steve, please pick out some of your favorite. What did you call Stormy, by the way?
Yeah, so on screen, let's just throw this up for our audio listeners before we jump in. Sorry about that, Steve. For our audio listeners, you go to Amazon.com. They have like a poster of all of the mascots in the National Hockey League, and that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, we're gonna put this in the show notes. So
Yeah.
you can look at
I mean,
it
it's tremendous. So I couldn't believe I found this last night. It was great. So, Steve, go ahead. I mean, off and running.
I will point out just quickly that the Rangers do not have a mascot, and so
Yes.
that is why they are a loser franchise.
Couldn't agree more,
So
by the way.
John asked about Stormy, and I really have that's the Carolina Hurricanes mascot.
Yeah.
I really have no idea what that is supposed to be, but it
We
reminds
couldn't
me
figure it out.
Man Bear Pig from South Park. That's what that is.
It's pretty close.
It's as close as you could get. Like,
Exactly.
I can picture Al Gore coming out and saying Man Bear Pig.
Exactly. But there are some classics, of course, like Harvey,
Let's go through
Calgary.
yeah, let's go through all of them. Let's start at the Anaheim one, which is like the mechanical Mighty Ducks logo.
Pretty much. Wild Wing. I mean,
What do you feel about that? What does everybody feel about that?
if we're doing a scale 1 to 5,
Yeah, we'll rate them. Actually, let's just be mean to all of them. What do you think about Wild Wing? Like, is that a good logo for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks?
I mean, I think it works for them, to be honest with you. It fits their mascot. It's pretty close to what they had in the past. You think about that duck logo that they had in the past, and that kind of looks like the duck logo they had.
What do you
It
think?
does look a little robotic, though. I would agree with you, John, on that.
It's definitely got some Terminator vibes to it.
Certainly does. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Got a very Disney vibe, and they're not owned by Disney anymore, which is bizarre.
Which is ironic.
It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that it looks like an angry Donald Duck hockey mask.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm totally expecting, Goldberg to be in net. Like when I see it, like that's my first thought to it.
Duct tape to the post. Yeah, that kind of deal. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's go down to Dallas. Matt, your thought of the Dallas.
Okay,
Stars?
yeah. First thought, since you're there, John, first thought is I don't know what just happened with that, but that looks like a Muppet that was thrown up or like a Muppet that was like going through the radioactive pool of slime and it came up out of it.
What was
It is
his
definitely-
name?
Victory Green is what it's called.
Green. Okay. So Steve, what do you think?
It's very Exorcist pea soup vomit color. And I have no clue what it's supposed to be.
I have no, and I lived in Dallas for a year. I do not live in Dallas now, but I did live in Dallas for a year. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. I love the Dallas Stars. I love Tyler Sagan. I enjoyed watching the Stars. Like,
First of all, Steve, can you believe this guy? I mean, he loves the Dallas Stars. What's going on there?
they're a fun hockey team to watch. They really are. If you like hockey, like they're a fun hockey team to watch. No joke. But yeah, mascot wise, eek. Like, like,
yeah.
now getting to who we can't pronounce.
Youppi.
With the exclamation point.
One of the all-time great mascots in the National Hockey League, of course, without pants. So I don't know what's going on there, but you know,
literally last night was the first time that I knew that the Montreal Canadiens had a mascot.
How about that?
Last night. I'm 1 year, I'm 1 day old to knowing that they had a mascot. I had no idea. I've been following hockey for 30 years.
Really?
I did not know they had a mascot at all. No idea.
No clue.
Well, to Matt's point about him not wearing pants, the Fanatic doesn't wear pants either.
That's a little weird. Some people don't wear pants, and that's not okay in the mascot world.
If it's an animal type mascot, I could see that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
This guy looks a little too human to me to be without pants.
Yeah.
He needs knickers, some sort of knickers.
A lot of these mascots are wearing just hockey pants.
Hockey pants. Yeah.
And here's the thing. Can I bring this up?
Go for it.
Should be reality.
Yep.
If you're a hockey mascot, you should probably be wearing hockey pants.
I would think. Yeah.
That should be like 101, right? Like 101. Like, put on some hockey pants because you're a hockey mascot. If you're a baseball mascot, you should probably wear some baseball pants.
Exactly.
Right? Aren't we, like, you're wearing, like, here's the thing. I look across, and this is just me being weird. Okay. You're all wearing the jerseys. Why are you wearing the pants?
What is going on in this community, right?
He would not have let me play on that hockey team if I didn't show up in pants. That's all I'm saying.
I would say this too,
Steve, but I don't have the pants.
Exactly. What's going on there?
Go and buy some pants.
I think that the one mascot we definitely would want to punch in the face is definitely Iceberg. I mean, that 100%.
So Steve, please tell the story of why we fell in love with, now that we're at Iceberg, please tell the story of why we all fell in love with Gritty.
All right. Well, Gritty had this grand unveiling by the Flyers,
which was terrible, by the way.
Yeah.
Was it 3 years ago now? I don't even remember how long ago it was.
I think it was 3 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. I don't remember.
I had this grand unveiling. They were teasing a mascot. They had this whole backstory where he was like living in the Wells Fargo Center, and they found him while they were renovating. He was living there.
Yep.
They had this grand unveiling, and I don't know if John saw it right away, but Matt and I both saw it at the unveiling and exchanged texts. It was kind of like, this is a little bizarre.
I was like, run for your life.
I was with my boy Brian Birch. We were traveling at the time, and he showed me, and I was like, WTF? What have they done? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, we just kind of kept it quiet.
Yeah.
He was like, it could work, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
I mean, when he turned around at that unveiling and his eyeballs just kind of went like this.
Yeah. The googly eyes.
It was weird. It was not a happy moment.
Yeah.
Right. So about an hour, it was not even like an hour or two later.
Yeah, it might have been like literally hour on the hour.
It might have been.
It might have been planned that way.
It probably was.
Genius.
He Gritty puts out a tweet that says,
in response to Iceberg.
In response to Iceberg, because Iceberg and the Pittsburgh franchise left
in the shreds. Yeah.
Yeah. So then so Gritty responds, sleep with one eye open, bird. And from there I was like, sold.
Launched.
The Saint of Philadelphia.
Launched.
And ever since then, Gritty is the king. I like every one of his tweets because they're just so hilarious.
Just awesome.
He is the PR department or
Oh.
whoever at the Flyers come up
Whoever runs that they are on par with Wendy's Twitter account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Did
they
you
are
guys-
that good.
They are
Did you
that
guys
good.
see-
Yeah.
They are that good.
Did you guys see at the All-Star game when Claude Giroux was out like signing autographs on the red carpet?
Mhm.
Gritty's out there with the water bottles, and he drops the tray and goes over and like hugs him. The bromance.
He has
between-
a bromance with Claude Giroux.
and
Yeah.
now Kevin Hayes. He and Kevin Hayes are.
That's
Kevin Hayes threatened not to play this season unless they let Gritty in the building, under the COVID restrictions.
nice.
Thank God. Thank
Nice.
God. No, he's such a great mascot.
Yeah.
Philly always does good with mascots, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Iceberg sucks.
Iceberg definitely sucks.
So if we had to do real quick, just to close it out, why don't we just pick like if we had a top three? Obviously, Gritty for all of us probably is number one.
Okay, so pick
But
a top
of the remaining mascots, let's just pick like the top two.
Steve, you go first. You go first. Where you go? You get just top. Let's just do top three.
Yeah.
He's probably your number one, of course, but
All right, yeah, Gritty's my number one. Are we gonna do bottom three? Because
yeah, no, we're definitely.
Yeah, we
doing
could
that.
definitely do that. Yeah, let's
All right,
do
all
that.
right.
We're gonna
Top
trash
three.
all over these mascots.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
all right. So after Gritty, even though he's got a stupid name since they've never won a cup, I think my
Stanley
son would
C.
be disappointed if I didn't pick Stanley C.
See? Yeah.
Okay.
He likes the Panthers. He likes the old Panther logo, the jumping cat.
Which is perfect. Like every kid should, because
And now they
such a
have
great
this.
logo. Yeah,
Now their logo looks like their Puma's going to Harvard or something. Or that would be
Yes.
the-
of course. Of course.
Exactly.
So I would pick him, and then I would pick Harvey, but he doesn't wear a shirt. That's kind of weird.
Weird.
John, what do you?
think, Bernie for the Avalanche? I think that's pretty clever.
And it kind of fits. Yep. Saint
Bernie-
Bernard. Yep.
Bernie's cool. Bernie's
I
definitely.
mean, it takes a little bit of imagination to realize the connection there.
Yep.
So I think that's cool that they didn't just take the logo like some teams just take New Jersey Devil, for example. And
Yeah.
Exactly.
And call it NJ Devil,
Right.
thinking that they're smart.
Exactly. I don't hate that. I don't hate that, but that's generic to me.
Yeah.
So if we're starting off, like definitely, I love Gritty. Gritty's easy. Bailey, Los Angeles, but I'm
Los
also
Angeles
a Lo-
Kings.
I'm also a Los Angeles Kings fan. I have been forever.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It just makes sense to me. I really wish that it was like a knight in shining armor, but it's Bailey, and I'm used to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I have to pick him.
He's just going back to the days of Ziggy Palfy.
Exactly, and
That's a name from the past. Wow. There you go.
I like talent.
Yep.
And I totally have to. Stinger is probably my third favorite.
Okay.
Just the Blue Jackets. I'm so mad at the Blue Jackets when they had the original logo
Mm.
of the Bumblebee,
Yeah.
Mm.
and then they got rid of it. I was
Mm.
like, oh, I hate you now.
Yeah.
But the Stinger logo or the Stinger mascot is so cool. I wish they would bring back the angry bee. It just
Mhm.
makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I love the
For me,
band.
it's definitely Gritty. That's definitely number one. I would, it's kind of interesting. I'm looking at these. I like Tommy the Blackhawk. I think that fits,
I agree.
and then I think also too, Steve, I couldn't agree with you more on Bernie. I think that fits the Colorado Avalanche. You think about it, it's a St. Bernard. It's kind of like, okay, where they come to you, with the
Even got the little
the
barrel.
rum and whatever when you're kind of freezing, that's kind of that fits, that kind of deal. I think the worst one by far is Iceberg, just because of the Pittsburgh franchise.
That's just
Chance doesn't make sense to me at all, just because of Vegas and Gold Knights, and it's a rattlesnake. That doesn't make any sense
No,
whatsoever.
we settled. It's a Gila monster.
Oh, it's a Gila monster. Okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
Gila
And
monster rattlesnake.
Sparky.
Doesn't make any sense.
Sparky the Islander.
Matt's just throwing flame right now.
Wrong.
right.
You got to be Gordon's the fisherman. If you're an Islander, you're a fisherman.
You throw fish sticks to the people.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, that kind of just makes sense to me.
All right, Steve, throw it out there. Who do you hate? You could go more than 3 if you want to, by the way, because I know you hate more than 3.
Oh man.
Go for it.
I agree with Matt on Sparky. I really don't understand that. That just I
Someone of the Islander fan nation is going to have to explain that one to me too.
yeah, that's just
It doesn't make. I understand. It doesn't make.
Again, Harvey's not wearing a shirt. That's
Weird.
really stands out and is weird. Down there, the Winnipeg Jets.
And he's not even a
Moose.
horse.
That's just lazy. That's like somebody walked in the door. Like, we need a mascot. Okay. And he just like
Moose.
puts down Moose. That's it. That's the mascot. And just walked out. It's like pay me my finder's fee.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally okay. So
John?
mine are gonna be really simple. Like Carlton of the Tampa, like you're a Maple
Toronto?
Leaf, dude, bro. Like you're a Maple Leaf. You could be something else. Like why did you pick like like they're not even bears like that in Toronto. Like argue with me. Like
Yeah, seriously.
not, like, polar bears do not live in Toronto. Like you just sold out.
Last time I looked too. Yeah, I would agree.
Exactly. Like polar bears do not live in Toronto.
Yeah.
I think that
The city of Toronto. Do polar bears exist in Canada? Absolutely. But
Not in Toronto.
oh, dude, I've been to Toronto. Like, there's no polar bears just like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing? Like, it's not happening.
I think Toronto in hockey sees themselves as like the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL.
Yeah.
Which is
If they
an
think
awful
they are
thing.
Canada's team,
Yeah.
You're not.
they're
But
not.
they're not. Yeah.
You're not.
So maybe that had something. I don't know.
Like
Yeah.
Calgary, but even Calgary has a crappy logo. I'm gonna go with Wild Wing with the like. Are you literally just you bought the team from Disney and then you're biting off of Disney? That seems like the worst. That would be like I bought this apartment complex and I'm
Mhm.
gonna keep everything the same. I'm just gonna own it because they did a good job, but yet I'm making no money because they didn't do a good job because I bought it at a low price. That literally is what the Ducks, not the Mighty Ducks, the Ducks.
Sucks.
Disney offloaded it, right?
Hmm.
At a very cheap price because they were not managing it very well.
Mm.
So what somebody did is they bought it and they were like, well, we'll just bastardize Disney all day long.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings now. Oh.
Seriously.
It's just not a logo.
Yeah.
It's
Or
really
mascot,
not.
yeah.
It's just not like they already did it. You changed your logo on your chest, but then your mascot has the face of your old logo. That's
Right.
terrible marketing.
Yeah.
That's terrible marketing.
Last one.
Oh God, it's so tough. I'm
It's tough to choose just one.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, your kid loves the Stanley C. I totally hate the idea that you never won a Stanley Cup and you call your mascot. the Stanley,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna go there.
It's hard to say.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know what? I'm gonna go to the bald eagle like slap shot.
slap shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chance and Slapshot are tied for the last one.
There you go. There you
I
go.
don't even know what Chance is. And the Washington Nationals already have that logo.
Yeah.
We already have that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Swoop already has that thing. Washington just bites straight off of Philly all the time.
Yeah.
That's why Bryce Harper came to the Phillies because he was I think he paid more money just playing for a bigger city.
Exactly.
Washington D.C. is like a mile long, and all they do is they're just like Golden Eagle, look flag, because I'm in D.C.
Yay!
I do, yay! Nationals.
I think they should just have
What is the basketball team? They were the.
It used to be
Bullets.
called the Bullets. Now it's the
Yeah,
Wizards.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible. They probably got an eagle as their mascot
Yeah, who
too.
I
knows?
think the Capitals mascot should just be a guy walking around with a giant Capitol dome on his head.
That's what I'm saying. Like
With
just
googly eyes coming out.
Yeah, right.
But here's the thing. You have the running of the president, and you're so dumb that
Yeah.
you don't make them like you're in DC. So
You got all these government
everything
buildings.
Be
Yeah.
about politics. Why
On that
isn't
note,
why is not Abe Lincoln dunking at the Wizards games? Why isn't Thomas Jefferson running around? Like this is why college and marketing is so terrible.
Hmm,
Trying to overthink everything. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're gonna make it a bird."
what are you
Well,
gonna do?
They did have for a while. They did have that logo that was an eagle. Back in like the Peter Bondra days, like late '90s, when they went
Yeah,
to the
no,
Yeah,
wasn't didn't Yager sign with them during that time? Wasn't he a Capital
Capital.
for like a minute?
He was like
maybe a
For
cup
like
of coffee.
Yeah, for like a real small time. Yeah.
2002.
That
Yeah.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was during during that like speedy,
Yeah,
that worked for them. That logo would have worked, but then when they switched backwards, like the Ovechkin ones, the Capitol with the Capitol building and all that stuff, you should probably just pick one of the presidents.
maybe think about that.
Running
Yeah,
around the Nationals Stadium.
yeah,
Just pick one of them.
yeah.
The Teddy Roosevelt is the Capitol's logo. Like that's why I don't like it, because it's like everybody, the Eagles, and this is probably very Homerish. The Eagles already have swoop, like, and you're only what, an hour and a half away,
Two.
and
Yeah.
that's all you're doing is you're just like, oh, the Capitol's just gonna have an eagle,
Yeah, exactly.
bro. We're doing
Weak.
it. Marketing is what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not okay, and I don't like Washington D.C. very much. Good
Well,
Froggy
that
Bottom, by the way, great burgers in Froggy Bottom. If you ever go to DC, you have to go.
Love that
Or
name,
going.
Foggy Bottom.
nice, nice.
Just go. The burgers over there are awesome. Just so you know,
Okay.
I've been places.
Okay, make a note of that. That's awesome. Well,
If you want to see the
Steve,
Capitol.
this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming again to Two Noobs Talking. Sorry about those technical difficulties from before. I don't know what happened there, but it just you have to maybe make an email to Dr. IP. I don't know what's going on with
That guy
that.
looks
But
like he's going to be in charge of PA's vaccination rollouts.
he might have to be.
I hope not.
But thank you for joining, of course, and we're always so. Yeah, it's great to have you here and great to catch up with you as well. John, why don't we do a little shameless plug while we have Steve with us? Close this whole baby out here.
Well, let's talk about Steve's YouTube channel. We'll throw that up on the corner. But then
do
we'll
it.
start with our socials. We run short videos on TikTok and Clapper, and also Instagram. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff.
And of course, like on the video side, we're on YouTube and Rumble. Like, share, and subscribe us on YouTube. We'd love to
YouTube
be in touch with you.
Please help us grow on YouTube. The same as Steve's account. We will throw them both up.
Absolutely.
Radio, we are at Two Noobs Talking 215-512 podcast. We are on Apple, fuck Spotify. We are on iHeartRadio and basically anywhere that you can search.
And then, of course, on the show notes side, TwoNoobsTalking.wordpress.com. We didn't have any show notes today because I don't have a piece of paper in front of me. How about that? But TwoNoobsTalking.wordpress.com. And if you go there and you enter in your email address and hit enter, those show notes will show up in your mailbox the next day. How about that?
Absolutely. And we're also working on some Discord stuff. We have a Two Noobs Radio is starting in the midsummer. So we're working that out, and that will be we're building. So
yeah, slow but sure.
You might hear all these voices on that.
Absolutely.
We're doing some things. So look out for Discord. Get a Discord account if you don't have one, because good things are happening forward.
All ready to go. We're building the empire, John, one brick at a time, baby.
Yes, we are.
There you go. So that wraps up episode 24 of Two Noobs Talking. John, anything final to say?
Matt, do not go down the rabbit hole.
I will try not to. My thanks again to Steve Murray for joining us. Talk to you all next week. Take care.